It's very interesting how fast, if I can be so blunt, is that the government moved, Nicky, and congratulations to you on that.
Oh, yes, well, we had to. I woke up the same as everybody else at 4:35, but we were down with the regional civil defence and then the City Council civil defence, well, just after 5, really.
Prime Minister came down, high priority as far as he was concerned?
Absolutely, and he brought Jerry Brownlee and David Carter, and I went with him, and we had a really good look across the city, and it was fascinating to see. The only thing I can say is with all this damage, it's just a miracle that no one's dead.
Absolutely. Television to a degree can show us, but you actually walking must have seen a lot more than the rest of the world has seen.
Well, of course, I live in the centre city, so I had a very first look at all the buildings that have fallen down there. And when you look around the city, generally speaking, what's happened there is those buildings that were built in the 1920s, 30s, perhaps even a little bit older, that were brick, their mortar has just shaken them down. And most of the things you see are on corners. That's because there's 2 walls that aren't supported. A lot of dairies on corners, but a lot of shops on corners. So that's what you're seeing in the television. But what you can't see is the damage that's gone on underneath with the water system and the drains. And I saw a good one today was 2 telegraph poles, no, 2 sort of traffic light poles. One is the normal height and the other's about half height. So the shake has pushed it right down into the ground. So God knows what it's gone through.
Very interesting how the emergency operations swung into place and are doing amazing work.
Yeah, I talked to the civil defence people and I said, you look so calm and so professional. And they said, yes, we have an ethos. It's like the ducks. We glide across the water effortlessly and we're paddling like mad underneath. And that's what I've seen right across the city. You know, I went to the Accident and Emergency Department. Tony Ryle, Minister of Health, asked me to go down there and they'd all arrived early. As soon as the earthquake happened, they rang and said, can we come in? I went to St John, the same thing there. Volunteers were just pouring into places where they could be used. And it was just wonderful.
And in fact, it seems to be very well coordinated, which is a very hard thing to understand when there's so many different segments.
Well, that was interesting too. I spoke to Dave Cliff, who's the police commander in the area, and he said, this is the 5th practice we've had. We had one just 2 weeks ago. They've been doing a lot of practice to do with terrorism, and it's just the same. It's all linked up. So they have been really well prepared right across the city, and it's just falling into place.
Whose idea to bring the army in? Because that's another huge step.
Well, it's just a matter of how many people you can use. The police had enough people for the weekend, but their officers were on 12-hour shifts, and they get tired. And so they decided that after the weekend, they would bring the army in to do some of the patrolling and to do that stuff that their people really need to have a bit of a break from.
Nicky, in any situation there's always those people who you want to pick up and shake, like parents who are letting children go into cracks on the roads because you just don't know when that crack's going to close up again.
Well, I think that's true. But I have to say, the people of Christchurch have been magnificent. There hasn't been, with that short talk of looting, which was a couple of drunks who had helped themselves out of a window, nothing's happened. Everybody's stayed home. Everybody's looked after their neighbours. Nobody's complained even. They've just got on with it. And I have to say, when you think of all the stupidity out there, they've done a fantastic job.
And of course the other thing is just the way that neighbours have stuck in together, haven't they? They've gone shoulder to shoulder. And I know in my little group of houses, everybody suddenly came out and was together, as it were.
I mean, dozens of people have said, oh, I met the neighbours, I've never met them before. But then some of them have really gone the extra mile. I was at a supermarket in Wairaki Road and they came down at 6 o'clock in the morning, everything was on the floor and they thought they'd have to shut. But people started queuing up saying, we need batteries, we need water. And so the neighbours came in, sent their kids in and they cleaned up while the owners got the torches and went round and got the stuff and took it out to the people. And they had to wait in a queue because it took a while, but they served everybody. They were open all day long. They opened by just after 6 and they didn't shut until 7 o'clock that night.
Makes you proud to be from Christchurch, doesn't it?
Proud to be a Canterburyan. I've always been one-eyed and now I think I'm going to be blind.
But from here on out, I mean, it's just a case of shoulder to shoulder, and it's going to be months, Nicky. And
it's grind now. As people are saying, the adrenaline is gone. People are getting tired. They're sick of not having any water or power, although I say, you know, 90%, 95% of power back, water up to nearly 90%, so we've done really well, but the people that are at the worst end, they're sick of it.
Absolutely.
And, it's just grind, and we've just got to make sure that we are shoulder to shoulder. That's a really good way of putting it.
And I think we will be. Nikki, thank you very
I'm
much
sure we
indeed.
will be.